Hello, friends. Today we have another session on some aspects of decision making. And we have generally found that decision making does involve a substantial amount of challenges. And one needs to address these challenges, one needs to understand these challenges. One of the biggest challenges that I have found in talking to friends and subscribers who are connected with me on various platforms is whether to trust your gut or not. And that is why I'm taking this up as the first challenge that one faces in decision making. What happens is that generally you are advised, and I have done so also, to use data and analytics to reach at certain decisions. And the question that arises is, what do you do when such relevant data and analytics is not available for the situation that you are wanting to take a decision about? So in the absence of availability of such a decision, what should be done? And at that time, my advice is that use your gut feeling, but don't delay the decision making waiting for data. And for all you know, that data may not be available because you are in a particularly unique situation. Okay. And to give you an example of this, if there is a doctor who is operating on a patient, the patient is opened up and on the surgery table, and he needs to take a call. Is he going to rely on data, or is he going to go by his gut feeling, his judgment, so to say, on whether to proceed and in what way? In the same way, if there's a VC sitting in front of a person who's presenting a startup to him for investment, and there is no data to fall back on because what that person is creating, the startup, the product or the service is unique, and there is no example similar to that available, what is the person going to do? In such situations, I think gut feeling is the only solution. And in critical and urgent and especially high impact decisions, the gut feeling is the only way to go by in this decision making process. It's fatal, it's critical, it's urgent. You don't have time to go and get data even if it is available at that time. So you need to just go by your gut feeling. Okay, so now what really is the situation about gut feelings? The thing is this, even in normal decision-making processes, you are often overloaded with data. There is so much data available to you, and there is a high risk and uncertainty in the decision that you have to make. Now, if you are going to wait to analyze the data or wait for additional relevant data to come in, this decision or absence of a decision could have fatal results or lead to missed opportunities. So you don't want to really do that. So in such situations, I would always suggest that you go by your gut feeling and move forward. And gut feeling is not really a nonsensical thing. It is an educated guess. It is not an uneducated decision or uneducated guess that you are making. It is an educated guess that you make and is based on both objective and subjective data that you have accumulated from various sources and maybe over years of experience. Okay. Or you have no experience and yet you need to take a gut call because you have no relevant data, but you need to take a decision. So gut feeling decisions are not quirky. They are not impulsive. It's not that you on an impulse take that decision. And they are not just emotional. Okay. They have a sound reasoning behind it. And it is something that you cultivate. Your gut feeling is something that you cultivate by paying attention to various situations, to various prototypes that you see, to various patterns that you have seen in life and that you have encountered in different situations on various categories. So this gets built into you subconsciously, okay? And that subconscious is what helps you or makes that gut feeling saying that, okay, let's do this. Now, really, when you need to take such a decision, you can follow a pretty strategic role. The first thing to do is to recognize the type of problem. You have to be able to identify and check what kind of a problem it is. And then do a study on whether data is available or is the situation completely unknowable. Nobody knows, or there is no data available from anybody who knows about such a situation. Now, if successful data and models are available, okay, then I would suggest that you go by that rather than the gut feeling. But when the situation is unknown and there is no data available, much like a diamond in the rough situation, then you must and have to use your intuition. That is the only avenue open. And once you take a decision based on gut feeling, do not, I repeat, do not try to explain it or justify it to others at that time. Because the data that you are using, okay, yes, as I said, gut feeling is something that is cultivated over the period of time. And there is data that is assimilated and stored inside you, maybe completely subconsciously. But the data that you are using is not something that you will be able to explain or that other person will be able to understand. So explaining or justifying it is like banging your head against the wall. Don't just bother. The second big reason why decision-making becomes a challenge is when you are stuck. You know what I mean by when you are stuck? When you are in a situation where you don't know how to move. And we all get stuck often. At times we don't realize it. And even if we realize it, we are not willing to accept it. Because being stuck basically sends the message that you are inadequately prepared to take that decision or to take a call on that. And you feel shame because of your inadequacy. So a lot of times we are stuck, we realize it, but we do not want to take call, or we do not want to accept the fact that we are stuck, even if we are unhappy being stuck. Now, when you are stuck, how will you get unstuck? So there are two ways. One is what we call an internal warning. Well, there is no internal message that is sent saying that, okay, boss, you are stuck. But there are certain feelings you get which indicate to you that you are stuck. And those feelings are like, okay, a churn in the stomach, okay, or the hair at the back of your neck standing up, or just that thought moving around in your mind where you know there's something wrong, but you don't know what to do about it, okay? So these are internal signals that tell you that you are stuck. The second thing is an external warning. And this is well spoken of. It can be a colleague, a family member, a friend who tells you to do something fast and finish the task. Or it can be somebody who is telling you that, look, that opportunity is there in front of you. And you're not taking a call, you're procrastinating, that opportunity will go by. When such messages come to you, you realize that you are stuck and that you really need to move forward. Okay. And actually, in such a situation, it's not just that you need to move forward, you need to act fast. Because, as I said, this feeling of being stuck is actually making you unhappy. So you need to act fast and decisively, of course. So, how does one get unstuck? The first thing is think about your thinking. Question the thought process that you are having during that stage. And what are the other options? If you don't take a decision, if that situation is such, are there any other options? Or as simple as turning to somebody for advice. Is there somebody you can turn to for advice? Another important thing is to consider what people around you think about such situations and consider what they say. It's not that you're directly, it can be a hypothetical question you ask them, but the answers that you get are going to express their opinions and feelings, which can be useful to you. And another thing, another way of going about this is there somebody in your life whom you look up to and whom you can go for advice or for suggestions in such a situation? So the basic thing about when you are stuck is that you follow a process of reflection. And that reflection will lead you to a decision. And always, not only for this purpose, but in life, it is always helpful to find a trusted mentor or an advisor whom you can turn to in such situations or in any situation where you need a sounding board, so to say, or somebody who's going to hear you and reflect and tell you about possible answers. So this is very important. Now, what is the third way in which decision-making is challenging? Is recognizing your own strengths and blind spots. Strengths is important, blind spots is even more important. So when you don't recognize your strengths and blind spots, challenges arise and difficulty arises in making a decision. Now, by and large, all of us, we are trained to use the same perspective. We have a fixed set of tools and we have certain habits that we have ingrained, which we use to reach a decision. And very often, not very often, I think most of the time, most people use those same tools, those same perspectives to make decisions of various kinds, which will be absolutely different and not similar in any way. Okay, so when the situations are substantially different, which is always the case, I don't think you will find two situations that are identical, except maybe certain regular, frequent decisions. But even then, there will be one factor that makes it unique. So to make better decisions, it is necessary that you break this particular aspect of your decision making. Change the perspective. Use new habits and new tools to reach the decision. Okay? Imagine yourself in different scenarios and think of what you would do in that scenario to reach a decision. Decision making is, as we have said often enough, a choice. It's a choice that you are making from available options to solve problems or plan growth. But remember that each problem and each attitude, each path of growth is unique and different. And therefore, no one process can fit them all. And therefore, you need to look at different things. Now, the same is true for your team. And hence, when you are delegating to your team and you are giving them responsibilities, you need to know what kind of a team member and what profile does he have. The different profiles can be adventurer. He takes quick decisions and trusts more on his gut than data. And then there's the detective who values information and is constantly looking for facts and data. And then there's the listener. He's going to go and talk to 20 different people, take their opinion, and then take a decision. And he's very happy about the fact that the decision is not taken by himself alone. And then there's the thinker who is thoughtful, generally slow in decision making, who studies all the options, studies the negatives, the positives of the options, and then reaches a decision. And then there's the visionary, who doesn't want to settle for any ordinary routine solution. He wants to create his own path and look for non-standard objections. So depending on the profile of your person you are delegating to, you need to be able to figure out what to give him. And another important thing is, you always need to have meetings when you're reaching a decision. And a badly planned meeting is the best way to get into difficult situations regarding decision making. So the first thing you need to do is the meeting necessary. If the meeting is necessary, make sure that you have the right participant list. Identify from your list who are the thinkers, who are the analyzers, and who are the doers. And ensure that there is no culture difference. Everybody has to be in the same page. From the beginning of the meeting, decide on who is going to be the decider and put him or her in front so that everybody knows who the decider is. And there will frequently be meetings and for decisions that you take where you cannot share all the details with everybody at the table. Maybe you can share some details with some with the other. Now, in such situations, you need to plan well in advance how and what are you going to speak at the meeting. Maybe you speak about certain aspects with a smaller group from that whole room and certain things with another smaller group, but you need to decide well in advance. Another challenge is when you have to take decisions in uncertain times. These are difficult times. You often face them, like COVID, for example. There were a lot of decisions that had to make, or when your company is downsizing because business is not good. What you need to do is to first take a step back and reflect. Take a breath, so to say. Take a moment to think and look at the broader picture. Take an aerial or a helicopter perspective. Okay, you will get a 360-degree view and you will get a much broader perspective to what the situation is. Determine the most important tasks at hand. Okay, and check for missing pieces. This is very important because everything may not be apparent at once. Okay. Second thing is, in such situations, involve more people. Okay. Normally, in such critical situations, we tend to work with smaller groups, give less authority to people. Generally, only the leaders are involved, but that's not the right way. Involve more people, you will get more views, you will get more suggestions, and more importantly, you will have different people from different levels and strata of society or hierarchy. Okay, and that leads to a much more justifiable and sensible decision. And follow the decision-making process that we have mentioned before about laying out the plan in advance, identifying the decision maker and all. I'm not going to repeat all of that. Okay, analyze the uncertainties. Discuss and imagine possible scenarios and how they would unfold over a period of time. These various scenarios are going to require different solutions each. So list them all. List them and keep them. You don't know what is going to happen in the future, but you have a ready reckoner to refer to about the different scenarios and how you will address them. And identify the big bet decisions and make sure that you are well on top of them. And get other team members to address the smaller issues. Because if you yourself are going to take all the decisions, you are not going to find time for the big bet decisions. Okay. I suggest this is set up a control room or a control center, so to say. Display all the data that we've just talked about, different scenarios, who is the leader, who is the doer, who is the thinker, on that in different charts. And let that displayed information be available to everybody involved at all times. Okay. Indicate specially who's in charge of what decision so that other team members know whom to approach for various problems. And make sure that the people you're appointing as decision makers have sound judgment and character. and appoint one team member who's constantly going to update that data with day-to-day developments. This center can be physical, it can be virtual, preferably both. So anybody can access it anywhere. We always said that DM is not easy and can be complex. And life itself is a series of decisions which you have to make at every stage. And those decisions impact your life and your future. And therefore, you'll have to take future decisions based on that decision. Okay, all fair. But the decision, you must identify which category it belongs to and make sure that you are doing the right thing as discussed earlier. So to make decision-making less challenging, have goals that are clear, recognize the risk involved, take note of the future circumstances that this decision will lead to, examine all options available to you, determine the odds of achieving your goals for each option, seek other people's opinions if necessary, find time to reflect and ponder, weighing all the options and consequences. You do this, and you will find that decision-making is far less challenging than you had imagined. I hope this helps you. I'm going to see you again on Monday now. Have a great weekend and enjoy. I'm not going to repeat that you, okay, but you know what to do.